morning, it's Barb with Inspire Me 360, and what I wanted to talk about today in this video is childhood trauma. So really what a lot of this stems from, especially in modern times, is the imbalances created almost kind of specifically from women entering the workforce. Because previously, well, so that's one factor. And then also the decline of, in a way, religious infrastructure. Because when we had predominant religious infrastructure as part of the societal norm, we had this kind of a construct on how to have the family structure exist. And as soon as, again, there was this decline in adherence to that sort of roadmap, and then also the women, mothers, entering the workforce, you have had a lot of disruption in terms of our family units. And what this caused for many, many children that, again, have went through this sort of broken home situation is a lot of wounding. And okay, again, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, but when women entered the workforce, they were no longer this structure for their children in those formidable years that, again, are very, very important to early childhood development and for children to feel safe and grounded in terms of their existence. And what so oftentimes we don't think about when we get into adult life is how incredibly impactful how we perceive the world as a child affects how we exist in our daily lives. We want to, I feel so much that a lot of adults pretend that they have it all together or pretend that they are adults, but they're still dealing with a tremendous amount of childhood trauma. So I want to talk about two types of issues that men or women can have in terms of, first of all, we're going to look at the mother wound. So when you're a young person, and let's say you're dealing with a single mother situation, okay? This is, again, a very imbalanced dynamic in terms of a childhood experience. You have a mother that, in most cases, is doing her very best to play the role that two individuals should be playing. So they are the breadwinner, they're trying to parent the child in terms of giving some structured male discipline, which is very difficult for the female or the feminine spirit. Just in and of the fact that it's very difficult for a woman to act as a man. I can really, really identify with this because in business, I have to be very masculine most of the time. And a lot of the times at the end of my day, I come home in tears because I am forcing myself to be so masculine, so out of character for the true emanation of my soul. But there's no other way for me to exist in business because that's how this world is set up. And so it's very difficult, again, from the perspective of a single mother who is kind of forcing herself to, or emasculating herself in terms of being in the workforce and being very masculine, because business and a lot of those societal structures, especially in a capitalistic system, are very masculine energy that is able to do that without kind of fracturing what it is. And so when a woman is placing herself in very masculine roles, we lose a certain element of our feminine spirit to be able to morph into that. So And then we can also look at the wounding of not having a stable father figure. And it's going to affect female children very differently than male children. And I really actually can't speak to how this kind of dynamic would affect the masculine or male children, because I've never been a man and I've not experienced it specifically. But I know for a female child, not having a good, consistent role model or a male role model, because specifically for me as well and my sisters, we didn't have, uncles, and, we didn't have any male role models, really. I mean, we had my grandpa, which he was amazing, but our family was so fractured that, again, it wasn't consistent enough for us to feel that it was an anchor. There was just so much chaos for us that it was, there was no anchors, essentially, and no masculine anchor. So what this does, and I've worked a lot on working through these things over the years and reading a lot of books and doing a lot of self-help courses. And so I'm at a point where I know the different aspects of myself that are still broken, but at least I can take a step back and I can make sure that I don't have extremely destructive behavioral patterns from these issues. And I think really that is the foundation of the healing process, is identifying your triggers and identifying how they are not serving you in terms of dealing with the collective or dealing with situations and the world at large. And then when you are triggered, or when you do see patterning in terms of your own woundedness affecting your external relationships or your external behavior, making changes with them, within yourself, or forcing yourself to move into better habits. And so just to kind of wrap this video up, and I will get into this in more videos, but being a little bit gentle on yourself is absolutely important. So when we're thinking of, really negative habits like addictions, any kind of addictions, I've gotten to a point in my life where I certainly don't have any addictive behaviors, and I'm very happy and proud of that. But that doesn't mean that I am above others, okay? I just am lucky enough to be at this point and not have to deal with that extra layer, okay? But I have had an extreme struggle with anxiety. So pervasive anxiety disorder my entire life, which really stemmed from this complete imbalance of my projected reality. And certainly it was focused through the lens of my own knowing and my own seeing. And so that foundational wounding, which again was initially caused from a broken home, has colored every experience thereafter. So really important that what I've learned is to not blame things. When you reside in the past and you reside in this victimhood, you also change nothing. So you have to take full responsibility once you reach adulthood for doing your own works and fixing your own wounds, irregardless of who caused them and whys and all of those things. It's now your solo journey to heal yourself. And then also identifying how you can project all of these imbalanced patterns that you have picked up along the way onto others. And when you start to see this, you can start to see how you may actually negatively affect the interactions in your lives, because we always want to bring it back to joyful 360. terms of child wounding, when we are in a family situation and a mother, or we only have one parent, so let's say it's a mother, and they are very diligent to being the provider, because again, that's generally, like in a two-parent home, traditionally, the man is the provider, okay? And then the mother is the nurturer. The mother can be that soft place to land. The mother can give that maternal energy she so effortlessly is able to bring forth. But when that second parent is not present, the female in the relationship, or the female mother figure, basically becomes very masculine and becomes the provider, which is very difficult, extremely difficult on the feminine spirit, because it's counterintuitive to who we are. And then it really exhausts the feminine spirit, because again, women derive their energy from being loving and caring and gentle and nurturing. This is what fills our soul. This is our role in terms of nature and the dynamic of the dualistic family dynamic. Women are that beautiful, gentle energy. So you're forcing a single parent, you're forcing a single mother to become dominantly masculine, and therefore she has to really, really pull something that is not innate to her beingness out to be able to become a provider, which is 2 times as exhausting to the spirit. It's doubly as exhausting. So then when she finally comes home to her children, she is played out. She has nothing left to give in terms of that nurturing energy. So then the children are essentially depleted or robbed of 2 energies that they very much need to build this structure. So they don't have access to that beautiful, nurturing, maternal energy that a mother playing a mother role can normally give as the foundation and structure of the home, and to build that early childhood development into what's happening with her children. And then you actually don't have a correct manifestation of that protector provider energy, which is the pillar of what that masculine energy should be. You have the feminine trying to play that role, which is extremely confusing to the children, and it feels, and it does wound the children, because what happens is that they feel extremely ungrounded and unsafe and unbalanced. And then they're having to deal with their development without proper footing, without proper cushioning to what the world is, because the world is not an easy place to be in. But without this infrastructure and support of the family, which again is the buffer, our family, or a family, is the buffer to the outside world. It is that protective layer that allows us to exist in a certain amount of chaos and learning, but always going back to this safe place to land. And again, I can speak to this because I didn't have it growing up. I didn't, my mother was forced to be in the workforce, and it was very difficult for myself and my sister to feel any sort of safety in the world. And it 100% made us very, very triggered by multiple things. One of the most predominant triggers would be that of abandonment, because again, when the father walks out of the home and basically says, I'm no longer, or my heart no longer resides with the family unit, the level of abandonment wounding that happens to the children is really insane. And it's not talked about. And I think the other thing too is that because the adults in the situation don't want to feel any level of guilt, or don't want to have to face possibly the damage they've done, the children are expected to also repress all of these chaotic emotions that they're going through. the ultimate goal for each and every human consciousness residing in a body, each and every human being, is that we can create sustainable, joyful, loving existence for the remainder of our life's path. It's not fun to reside in chaos. It's not fun to have disconnect with others, or to not have healthy friendships and healthy social interactions and healthy spousal relationships. This is not the goal of one's life. The goal is to get to a point where you can hit an equilibrium, that equilibrium being peace and balance within oneself. And then from creating this stable infrastructure, no matter where you began, once you've hit that zone of stability, then you start to build upon that and then get to the good stuff. The fun, the joy, the creation, the purpose, the passion, the deep connected interactions with others, the beautiful lifelong friendships, the really interconnectedness with family members. A lot of times this is circling back to very broken situations within families, and it's going to take work and it's going to take effort. But if you can come from a very stable place that, again, a lot of times with childhood wounding, you're going to have to be the one to do the work. So no matter what has happened historically in terms of our lineage, abuses that happened, distortions that happened in families, you can break generational curses, but it takes diligence. You can break pervasive negative family patterns. So when I talk about generational curses, this is what I'm really talking about. It's not like a witch's curse. What I'm saying is it's this learned patterning that is passed down somewhat through genetics and somewhat just through nurture, okay? So when we look at nature versus nurture, nature being our genetics, our genetic makeup, and then nurture being how the family dynamic and development unfolds. And so we can do two things. Actually, we can control the genetics in terms of what we deal with what we're doing with our health. Okay, so I am very, very adherent to maximizing my biological output every day. That means supplements, that means exercise, that means proper sleep, my diet of the mind. So what am I gonna allow my mind to take on? So these are things that will help us with the genetics we've been born with. So maybe it wasn't a perfect, genetic makeup, but at least we can do the very best with what we're doing daily to augment our genetics, which is the nature aspect. Then in terms of the nurture aspect, okay, that is predominantly through traditional psychology thought of as the external, okay, so what the world is giving to us. But I also believe that nurture can come from within, so we can learn to nurture ourselves. If what is expressing on the external reality is not feeding our soul, is not enough, then we have to become our own self-nurturing vehicle, which includes self-help, learning, podcasts, cognitive behavioral therapies, okay? Learning about those things. What can we do with our own habits and external expressions that will help us to heal ourselves? So that's taking responsibility, moving out of the victim role, back into our own responsible healing journey. I'm going to end this video because it's getting a little bit long. It's a little bit of a less bright, happy video, but I think necessary in terms of healing path to understand. When we understand what we're going through, we can really figure out a trajectory to where we want to head to. And also a huge amount of forgiveness. You have to be able to forgive yourself, and you have to be able to offload the guilt. Okay, guilt is very damaging. You have to impart self-love. This is the most crucial element. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'm off for a hike. I'm going to commune in nature, and wishing you all a wonderful, amazing day.